Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear community, I warmly welcome you to today's comparison test. It's great to have you with us again. You asked for it, a comparison of the two current cordless hot air guns from Bosch and Makita, specifically the Bosch GHG 18V-50 against the Makita DHG181. We'll be looking at the differences between these two devices, their respective advantages and disadvantages, and which cordless hot air gun you should ultimately choose. I'll be discussing these points with you in the video today. So, without further ado, let's not waste any time and dive right into it after the intro. As usual, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel for free and hit the bell icon to never miss any new videos in the future. You can find the current prices of these devices in the video description below. Thank you very much for your support, and let's get started after the intro. A hot air gun is indeed a very practical tool, even more so when there's no cord attached to it constantly getting tangled up, as is the case with these two devices here. You requested a simple comparison video of the two current cordless hot air guns from Bosch and Makita. Specifically, today we have the Bosch GHG 18V-50 against the Makita GHG181. I want to mention up front that today's video is solely focused on comparing these two devices. That means we'll be looking at their similarities and differences. I won't go into all the details of each device again because I've already introduced and tested both of these cordless hot air guns separately. If you haven't seen the individual videos yet, make sure to check them out. I'll provide links up here on the info card. This means we can now thoroughly compare both devices and examine their similarities and differences in detail. Starting with the external appearance, you can already see that both devices are almost identical in size. Nevertheless, I can genuinely say the devil is definitely in the details when it comes to the differences and similarities. As you can see, both devices are currently equipped with batteries of different capacities. For a better comparison, I would say let's focus purely on the bare tools. Looking at the size, you can immediately tell that both devices are almost the same size without the battery. Let's measure it quickly, starting with the height. Without a battery, the Bosch device measures around 205 millimeters in height, and the Makita is similar, also 205 millimeters. Looking at the length, there's a bit of a difference. With Bosch, we have a total length of around 180 millimeters, including the angled corner here at the back, and with Makita, it's around 170 millimeters. So the device is a proud 10 millimeters shorter. In this regard, both devices are equal, and I must say, in my opinion, both are not at all bulky for cordless hot air guns. What about the weight of the individual blowers? Let's quickly check this point. Here's the scale, and I suggest we start with the Makita device. As you can see, without the battery, without the attachment, extremely light. I'm curious what the scale says. It weighs just around 700 grams, practically nothing, and then the Bosch device, when picked up, I must say is also extremely light. The scale shows only 600 grams, that's another 100 grams less than Makita. So you can say the Bosch device weighs almost nothing, just like the Makita device. Incredible, 600 and 700 grams. For these two cordless hot air guns, well, what is that in terms of weight? Practically nothing, and as a result, we have an extremely positive handling experience with both of these devices. A fatigue-free handling experience, but more on that later when we look at the handle. Of course, what needs to be considered at this point is the respective battery, and both devices are undoubtedly hungry, meaning large batteries are recommended. With the ProCore 4 ampere-hours, you won't be able to work for long. If you really want to work with the device continuously, it's advisable to either use several small batteries to maintain the low weight or opt for a large ProCore with 8 ampere-hours. It's important to note that both devices are 18-volt cordless hot air guns. This means I really need an 18-volt battery from the respective manufacturer for operation. For example, 14.4-volt batteries or similar won't work with Makita. Other than that, as we're used to, the batteries are inserted from the front into the battery compartment. This works smoothly for both devices, no hooks or anything, and the batteries can be easily unlocked the other way around as well. As mentioned earlier, to keep the weight of the cordless hot air guns as low as possible, I recommend using several small batteries. In this case, it's optimal. For example, here with BOSCH, attaching a Procore 4 Ah battery at the bottom. The battery is lightweight, super small, and doesn't really make the device much heavier. This means it's easily possible to perform this hand movement over an extended period, for example, to remove stickers or similar items. With a large Procore 8 Ah battery, which weighs significantly more, the situation naturally changes. In addition to weight, the ergonomics of the handle are equally important, and I can say that both devices are overall very ergonomic but have slight differences. The first thing you notice is that both handles have different size dimensions, albeit minimal. I have to say, in direct comparison, it's definitely noticeable. The BOSCH handle is slightly larger in circumference than the Makita handle. I wouldn't classify this as positive or negative because both handles have good ergonomics, are comfortable, and secure to grip. Perhaps it could be problematic for very small hands, but generally I don't see significant issues here. Additionally, both handles are not only very ergonomic, but also heavily rubberized in black, making them very slip resistant. Now, let's move on to the controls because there are quite significant differences between these two cordless hot air guns. Starting with the BOSCH device, following the motto, simple but functional. The controls on the BOSCH cordless hot air gun are similar to those of a basic cordless drill. This means there's not much to adapt to. On the side where the forward-reverse switch would be, there's a bolt that allows the device to be unlocked. This means it can be activated from both sides, suitable for both right and left-handed users. By unlocking this bolt, the trigger at the bottom is activated, allowing the device to function, and that's how it works. Now, let's look at the operating principle of the Makita device because it's obviously a bit different. Here too, we find a small button on the left side, but this is not for unlocking. It serves as a lock. The unlocking mechanism, on the other hand, is integrated into the trigger at the front. It's a bit unusual at first because I have to press down this small lever with my index finger before I can operate the trigger. But once I do that, I can lock it positively as well. The significant advantage of this design is that the Makita device can be continuously activated. This is not the case with BOSCH. This means you really have to keep pressing the trigger constantly. A lock feature here would definitely be very, very practical. Now let's go a bit higher and move on to the head of the machine. Again, there are significant differences between these two devices. As mentioned earlier, in terms of size, both cordless blowers are almost identical in the head area. The more significant differences emerge when we look at the function and implementation of the two devices. Let's take a look at the back where the temperature can be adjusted. As you can see on the BOSCH device, there's a small red switch at the back allowing us to choose between the two preset temperature levels. This means with this device, it's only possible to select between 300 and 500 degrees. On the other hand, the Makita device, as you can see here, there's no switch to select between temperatures, but we have a small dial where we can choose from a total of 6 levels. It's worth mentioning that Makita cordless blowers deliver temperatures from 150 to a maximum of 550 degrees, which can be regulated through these 6 levels. The BOSCH blower, on the other hand, delivers a maximum of 500 degrees in level number 2. But BOSCH advertises the advantage that the blower should heat up to 300 degrees within a very short time, specifically within 6 seconds. I believe Makita takes significantly longer for this. However, this will definitely be demonstrated in the practical test in a direct comparison later. Regardless of the respective maximum temperatures delivered by both devices, there's still a significant advantage with the Makita device. Namely, in addition to the 6 levels, we also have a cold air mode, specifically level number 1. This provides the clear advantage that after working with the device for a long time, we can easily cool it down. Set it to level number 1, let the device run for a minute, and the tip or the nozzle is completely cooled down. With the BOSCH device, you would have to wait longer, or you should naturally wait longer before putting the device back into the case or the box. Additionally, the Makita blower on the back has a small extendable metal hook, making it possible to hang the blower somewhere, also a nice feature. In addition to the temperatures produced by both devices, it's also useful to take a look at the resulting air volumes, as there's a significant difference between these two devices in this regard as well. Firstly, it must be said that both blowers are very similar in this regard. The BOSCH blower delivers a maximum of 175 liters per minute, and the Makita blower delivers a maximum of 200 liters per minute, making it slightly better equipped in this aspect. Furthermore, the Makita blower has a two-stage function. This means we find a small switch at the base of the machine, allowing us to choose between level 1 and level 2. Depending on how much hot air needs to come out, with the Makita device, I can decide whether to use level 1 with a maximum of 120 liters per minute or level 2 with a maximum of 200 liters per minute. Those are the key performance data for these two devices. Now, let's take a closer look at the respective nozzles, or rather, the mounting and dismounting of the nozzles one last time. As you can see, both devices have the outlet at the front where the hot air comes out and where we can mount the respective nozzles depending on the application. This means, depending on the specific application, I can attach the reducing nozzle or the reflector nozzle to the outlet, for example. This process is identical for both devices. You simply attach the corresponding nozzle and it automatically stays in place. So far, so good. Both devices are identical in this regard. However, things get interesting when I've used the nozzle for a while and now want to remove it because I immediately need a different nozzle. In the normal case, I could wait for the nozzle to cool down to change it, or I could use the drop-off feature here with Makita. This means if I attach the nozzle here at the front and it's still extremely hot after use, I don't have to touch it. Instead, there's a small drop-off ring in the black at the front. When I turn it, the nozzle is automatically ejected forward. I can then set it aside and easily mount the new nozzle. In this regard, this is definitely an extremely useful feature offered by the Makita DHG181. The drop-off mechanism isn't available in this way with the BOSCH device. This means we really have to manually remove the nozzle with our hands or with a tool such as a screwdriver. Otherwise, it's also possible here to remove the protective contact ring, which ensures that you don't accidentally touch the hot outlet. And of course, last but not least, both devices have a built-in LED at the base of the machine to illuminate the workplace. I don't need to show you this in the dark, as BOSCH's LED is significantly better than the one on the Makita device. We've thoroughly examined both devices in theory, and now it's time for the practical test. I'm curious to see how both devices perform in the test in comparison. So, Makita DHG181 against BOSCH GHG 18V-50. Sit back, the comparison test begins. And now we're starting the practical test, or rather, the comparison test of these two cordless hot air blowers, Makita DHG181 versus BOSCH GHG 18V-50. I'm excited. For both devices, I'm using specific nozzles, a flat nozzle for the Makita device and a reducing nozzle for the BOSCH hot air blower. Furthermore, very important, the batteries used for the Makita 18 volts 5 ampere hours fresh from the charger, and for BOSCH, a Procore also 4 ampere hours in size. These are also fully charged in advance to provide maximum power and endurance. I'm also using both devices at the highest power level, meaning level 6 and speed levels number 2 for Makita. Power level 2, meaning 500 degrees for BOSCH, and that should allow both devices to operate at their maximum. Additionally, I'm using a thermal imaging camera to assess the results more accurately regarding the temperatures. So let's start with the warm-up phase. I'll check how long both devices really need to reach their maximum temperature or working temperature. Here on the left side of the video, you can see the timer, and at the bottom right, the thermal images are displayed. As you can see, within a few seconds, the nozzle of the BOSCH cordless hot air blower on the left side reaches impressive temperatures of over 100 degrees, meaning the device has reached the operating temperature, which I find truly remarkable. Then, on the right side next to it, the Makita blower. You can also see the timer displayed. At this point, it only has lukewarm temperatures. Why is that? Quite simply, the warm-up phase in the BOSCH device is even more optimized compared to the Makita device. You can immediately notice this when activating both devices. The BOSCH device significantly reduces the air volume at the beginning, causing less air to flow through the blower, allowing it to heat up much faster. Once the blowers reach the maximum temperature, it automatically starts ramping up the air volume again. This is also noticeably practical in practice. With Makita, these automatic adjustments do not exist. Instead, we have to manually regulate the speed based on the two levels available. Personally, I would recommend using the highest power level 6 and the lower speed level 1 to heat up the device. Regarding the temperatures, I couldn't find any significant difference between these two cordless hot air blowers in practice, especially since the difference is only 50 degrees. The BOSCH cordless hot air blower reaches a maximum of 500 degrees at the highest level, and the Makita is rated for up to 550 degrees. In practice, as I mentioned, there's no noticeable difference in this regard. The same applies to handling. However, I must say that both blowers are quite good in my opinion. They are particularly light and have an ergonomic handle, making the handling very comfortable in practice. The only thing I noticed directly in the test is the lack of locking mechanism in the BOSCH blower. This can be a practical disadvantage in real-life usage. Another significant advantage of the Makita blower is the cold air setting. With this feature, we can cool down the nozzle much faster and stow it away accordingly. And of course, not to forget the incredibly practical automatic ejection feature, especially beneficial for those who need to change the nozzle frequently in practice. With this feature, we don't need a separate tool to handle the nozzle. We can simply eject it, attach a new one, and continue working. In summary, it can be said that both devices are undoubtedly top-notch cordless hot air blowers. While the BOSCH device is ready for use within seconds, the Makita stands out with additional practical features such as a more detailed temperature control or the automatic ejection system. So here's my recommendation. As mentioned earlier, you can find the links to both devices in the video description below. Now it's your turn. Which cordless hot air blower would you choose and why? Feel free to share your opinion in the comment section below. I'm looking forward to your feedback. And with that, I would say if you enjoyed this comparison video, please show your support by giving it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel for free, and don't forget to ring the bell to stay updated with future videos. You can find the current prices in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and with that, take care and see you next time.